Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Ox Talks. It is Thursday, May 9th, 2024. Hope you guys are having a great week so far. Again, I know I've been sporadic on the videos. The workload's been pretty substantial here at the office, and I've been having to dedicate a lot of time to the caseload this week. Hope that you all are doing well, and appreciate you tuning into the videos, watching, subscribing to the channel, most importantly, sharing these videos with family and friends. I entitled the video today, get your popcorn ready for a reason, because I saw a couple articles this morning which I wanted to share with you that I think are going to be quite a spectacle with the data we're seeing here as this unfolds into this year. The first article that we'll share was from CNBC. Zero Hedge covered it, a bunch of other outlets, but I want to cover CNBC's story on the weekly jobless claims. Because it just covers the basic data, which I wanted to report to you. It says that they jumped to 231,000. That's the highest since August of last year. It says initial filings for unemployment benefits have hit their highest levels since late August 2023, a potential sign that an otherwise robust labor market is changing. And how about all of you? Do you believe the labor market is robust, or that this is a sham, is the data that we're shared and we learn about is manipulated? We know that most of the full-time jobs are going to illegals. We know that most American citizens can't find work when they're trying to, and they get several part-time jobs they have to cobble together just to try to make ends meet. It says jobless claims totaled a seasonally adjusted 231,000 for the week ending on May 4th, up 22,000, it says, from the previous period, and higher than the Dow Jones estimate for 214,000. The Labor Department reported Thursday. It was the highest claims, again, since August of last year. The increase in claims follows a string of mostly strong hiring reports. Of course, strong hiring reports that always get revised backwards. It says, though hiring in April was light compared with expectations. Although job openings have been declining amid expectations that the labor market is likely to slow throughout the year. The report also showed that continuing claims, which run a week behind, increased to 1.78 million, up 17,000 from the previous week. So we have more people filing for initial claims, and we have more people continuing existing claims because they haven't yet found work. It says the 4-week moving average of claims helps to smooth out the weekly volatility. But look, the weekly claims are one of the timeliest, it says, indicators of when the economy is starting to undergo serious deterioration. And the magnitude of new layoffs this week looks worrisome, according to Christopher Rupke, a chief economist at FWD Bonds. 1 week does not make a trend, he says. We can no longer be sure that calm seas lie ahead for the U.S. economy, if today's weekly jobless claims are any indication. Again, if you're just a cheerleader, you're always believing that the trend is just changed and it's unexpected. The trend has been developing for some time now. We know that. We've seen the tens of thousands of layoffs, stories of companies shutting their doors, stories of employers simply not hiring, cutting back hiring new employees. It says non-farm payrolls increased by 175,000 in April, below the Wall Street estimate of 240, and the smallest gain since October of last year. The unemployment rate was at 3.9%, continuing to hold below 4% since February of 2022. But again, it ticked up from 3.8% just recently. So it's going in the wrong direction. It says excluding seasonal adjustments, claims totaled 209,324, up 10.4% from the previous week. And it says New York saw the most drastic increase in jobless claims. So it says that markets are expecting the central bank to begin lowering interest rates in September. And look, this was stock market positive today. The Dow Jones, the S&P and the Nasdaq all finished in the green. Dow Jones finished up over 331 points higher. So don't think for a second that bad news isn't good news to the markets if it believes it's going to be the catalyst for the Fed to start cutting rates. I would not be so sure about that. The next article I'm going to share with you, we've discussed this on this channel several times throughout the holidays in 2023 because there were a whole lot of stories coming out about consumers overextending themselves, taking on debt that they couldn't afford to repay, and how this buy now, pay later, the BNPL programs have now crept into the psyche of the American consumer, how they're using that as an alternative to their credit cards. They just buy something they can't afford, they split it up into 4 payments, pay interest. So let me share with you today on the Zero Hedge. The title of the article is The Missing Piece of the Puzzle, and it's very interesting. Behind the inexplicable strength of U.S. consumers is a $700 billion in phantom debt. And we hear repeatedly how the consumer is resilient, how everyone's amazed how the consumer has been able to stay strong in the face of so much economic uncertainty. The reality is they haven't. So let's dig into the meat of this story. It says, yesterday they discussed the latest consumer credit data, which revealed that the amount of credit card debt across the United States had hit a new record high of $1.337 trillion. That's with a T, folks. $1.337 trillion in credit card debt. Although it appears to have finally hit a brick wall, barely rising in March by the smallest amount since the pandemic crash. I don't know if you read yesterday's stories on that, or I guess it was, or the day before, maybe it was Tuesday or yesterday. But if you caught what they were saying, is they were actually spinning it to be a good thing, that the credit card debt rose at a slower pace. And there's a reason for that. It's because the consumers are maxing out their credit cards. They no longer can afford to take on any more credit. They can't really make their monthly payments. They're going into default. So that is not good news. The credit card debt in this country is still, as it says, is at a record high. It says, to be sure, credit card debt is just a small portion of the total household debt in this country, and they say it's 6% allocated to credit card debt. As the next chart from the latest New York Fed Consumer Credit Report shows, the bulk, or 70% of U.S. household debt, is in the form of mortgages, followed by student loans, followed by auto loans, then credit card debt, then home equity credit, and various other forms. All together, the total is a massive $17.5 trillion in total household debt. And you wonder why other countries are moving away from the dollar. You wonder why other countries look at the United States as the biggest debtor nation in the history of the world and don't want to hold our debt anymore, don't want to hold our bonds, don't have confidence that this currency is going to be around for the long term. The article continues, but staggering as the amount of household debt may be, so at least we know how huge the problem is. After all the data is public, what is far more dangerous, well, what they're saying is the data, credit card data, mortgage data, HELOC figures, student loan figures, that's all made public, so you can add up those figures. But this buy now, pay later is a little different animal. And it says it's dangerous because we have no clue about its size, is what Bloomberg calls phantom debt. And we have repeatedly called, they've really called buy now, pay later debt. How much of that kind of debt is out there is largely a guess, it says. The major companies that provide these so-called pay in 4 products, and those are Affirm Holdings, Klarna Bank, and Block's Afterpay, don't report buy now, pay later loans to credit agencies. That's why buy now, pay later credit has earned a far more ominous nickname, again, going back, calling it phantom debt. It says that they do have an idea of what the phantom debt is and they're projecting it to be $700 billion globally by 2028. And they said what it's doing is masking the complete picture of the financial health or lack thereof of the American households, because it's largely off the books debt. So now there are also signs that consumers are struggling to afford their buy now, pay later debt as well. A recent survey conducted for Bloomberg News by Harris Poll found that 43% of those who owe money on buy now, pay later services said they were behind on payments, while 28% said they were delinquent on other debt because of spending on the platforms. So they're taking out buy now, pay later debt. They're falling behind on other debt obligations or on everything. It says, so why is this latest debt bubble called phantom? It's because buy now, pay later is essentially a black box because of the long-standing blame game among buy now, pay later providers. As the three major credit bureaus, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, the buy now, pay later companies don't provide data on their installment loans that are split into 4 payments, which are used by online shoppers to spend an estimated $19.2 billion in the first quarter of this year, according to Adobe Analytics. That's up 12.3% compared with the same time last year. So now we are having an abuse of these programs as well. It's no surprise. It's because we have a sickness in the mindset of the consumers in this country. It says, not only do we know just how big it is, we do not know just how big the problem is. It's actively masking, actively masked, said MASKED, by credit card agencies, which aren't accurately calculating how it impacts people's FICO scores or their credit scores. Usually when you have a lot of debt, or your debt compared to your credit lines is excessive, that brings down your FICO score. With this buy now, pay later, it doesn't translate over. It's not even reported. So not only are you having the health of the consumer in terms of their spending capacity being, let's say, shadowed or not disclosed, but also how it's impacting their credit score. With that stuff, it's not. The Harris poll that we just discussed says conducted last month provides a crucial clue about how Americans use buy now, pay later. This is scary. It says for splitting payments into smaller chunks does encourage more spending. More than half of the respondents in that poll that used buy now, pay later said it allowed them to purchase more than they could afford. We know that. While nearly a quarter agreed with the statement that the buy now, pay later spending was out of control. Harris also found that 23% of users said they couldn't afford the majority of what they bought without splitting payments up, while more than a third turned to the services after maxing out other credit cards. This is Americans now, or excuse me, half of those using buy now, pay later said they've started or have considered using it to pay bills or buy essential items, including groceries. Americans are no longer even charging everyday purchases they traditionally used cash and savings to pay for. Now they're using installment plans to pay for bread, it says. That is a very, very scary trend. And if that could very easily be the last leg of this consumer race, so to speak. Keep a watch on it. I thought it was, the numbers were shocking, but I guess not surprising. We know where this is heading, folks. We know what we should be doing on a personal level and with our families to improve our financial health, get ourselves fortified. Do not get involved in this kind of stuff. If you cannot afford to buy it, then you probably shouldn't be buying it. And if you're in a dire enough situation where you're going to be having to rely on buy now, pay later programs to afford food, put food on the table, all I can say is God help you, because that is going to end really, really badly. I'll leave it there today. It's 14 and a half minutes, and I'll be leaving in about an hour to get my workout in today. As I discuss all the time on this channel, physical fitness is an integral component of what we need to do to fortify ourselves, to be stronger, more resilient, be able to deal with stress, and it's going to be coming, folks, for everybody. No one's going to be immune to this, okay? So do your exercise, get your strength training in, watch the diet. Everyone have a great evening. I'll touch base in the next day or so. Bye.